me share my screen. There's also a lot of similarities between across NPCs, mobs, and pets. You know, like they can all. There's kind of a lot of overlapping stuff. You might have pets that follow you around, but you also might have an NPC that follows you around, as Seth was saying, and you might have a mob that does the exact same thing, like some enemy that's following you around until it gets to you, and then it starts attacking you. Yeah, so in Hyperfy, we basically figured that the worlds were looking pretty boring without some life. So just as a kind of a quick experiment that kind of turned out into something that we'll probably keep, we decided to put some basic NPCs in there. And it's relatively simple for now, but basically it's just a GLTF with a couple of baked animations in there. And so you've got like an idle animation, but it's dynamic. So right now she's sad, and as you walk up to her and you start talking to her, her animation changes to a talking person. And then as you go through the dialogue, you know, it'll come up with a couple of options. One of them accepts a quest. She's like, yeah, cool. Goes back to being sad because she wants her teddy bear. We'll go find it. Yeah, pick up a teddy bear, take it back. She's like, find my teddy bear, give it back to her, and then she does a little dance. So all it's doing is flipping through these animations. And then she remembers that you've finished the quest. So like she won't go back to being sad. She'll now just have like a default idle animation running. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So just to show like the kind of how that works, there's just a simple JSON schema for defining like all of the dialogue, and it's similar to what I was showing before. Like you've got just a key value where you've got this dialogue piece of thing, this dialogue thing that shows some text, and after you do that, it'll go to this next one, and inside this next one, it's showing a bunch of options, and depending on which option you click on, it will just go to whatever one. And there's a couple of extra things in here that I kind of added, one of which is events. So you can push out an event when you complete the quest. And I've kind of tried to keep this as simple as possible for interrupt possibilities. And so, yeah, that's how you outline the schema of the text talking to the NPC. And then those events and, you know, depending on what these things are called views, depending on what view is showing will actually drive the animation. So I've got like a couple of variables here for whether they've picked up the item, the teddy bear, or given them the item, and based on that, we'll just swap out what animation is playing. And that's the GLB here, and it literally just puts the animation in there, and it will automatically blend that animation to the other one. And then there's also the events. So when you've completed the quest, it'll mark it as done. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That whole thing was just in less than 100 lines of code there. Most of it was just text. Yeah, so basically, yeah, it was a need for more lively worlds, something to make worlds more interactive and fun. And we've tried to kind of like build this with flexibility in mind, right? So having some kind of hard-coded thing to do quests would be annoying, and we kind of want to make it composable so that you can, I think Philbert right now is kind of using the exact same system to do a quest where you have to pick up more than one item. So you have to pick up a bunch of logs around this forest area. There's, I think he also made it so that two NPCs can like depend on each other. So if you haven't completed a quest, this other NPC will be like, hey, come back when you finish this other quest, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's simplicity and flexibility with some. It's basically state driven and outputs a bunch of events, which kind of makes it a little bit engine like agnostic. So it could work in Webiverse or Anarchy Arcade or whatever you want. And it will work with chaining. So you could have a quest system where you've got to complete one quest to get to another one, and then keep going down the line until you get somewhere else. And yeah, stuff like that. So right now they're GLBs with baked animations, but in doing so, we realized that it would probably be good to do VRM because it's a lot more interoperable. Basically, just having a VRM and then giving it a bunch of FBX animations of your choosing, like from Mixamo or something. And in the future, we kind of want to expand that to do things like pathfinding, as I mentioned, or even just since if you don't want to do like hardcore pathfinding, you could just do a walk zone, like maybe a radius or just like draw a box on the ground that they'll kind of roam around in. And following quests. So at some point, like the NPC might, at any point in the dialogue, it might kind of trigger a thing that says, all right, well, now this NPC will just follow you around. So in doing all this, it was really an experiment, but the end kind of result is that we've all kind of got a similar spec, but it would be good to build something that's kind of interoperable that we could all go with. And also writing the, like, even though this is relatively simple to write, it's not too complex. I think most people would be able to figure it out a little bit. I mean, it's just JSON essentially. It would be great to have some kind of UI for it. And it's probably not that hard to build, but that's kind of something that I think I want to look at in the future. And also if you've got that UI that can build that dialogue, and there's no reason why it can't be, you can't have like some kind of export button that can, even if different platforms had different formats, it could export to different formats. The same way that Blender, you can export to FBX or GLB or to OBJ or whatever. Yeah, so that's it.
Clapping noise. Very awesome. I'm happy that you found that girl's teddy bear.
Cool. I guess I have one question, and maybe this is actually not really a question, but more of a suggestion. If everyone can kind of publish examples of like NPC code somewhere so that we could kind of look at these things side by side and figure out interoperability.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
They're all so similar as well, which is just crazy.
Yeah, I think that I mean, by the virtue of making these systems, you feel that they are lifeless, and what gives life to things in the end is people. So even the illusion of people is pretty strong. So I think that if we can figure this out, it will be kind of huge.